This one is for the Nimzo-Indian players. Let's jump right in to facing the Rubinstein Variation, which is arguably the most reputable system against the Nimzo-Indian. And many moves have been played here, but we're going to be recommending this SOS move, knight e4, and we're going to get some fresh analysis here. We've immediately put pressure on c3. Now, 5-1, the most popular move here is queen c2 to defend the knight. So let's look at the sidelines first. So say, for instance, queen g4. This is the most aggressive move, and you should always start by analyzing that. We have the ability to capture on c3. You don't have anything to worry about with queen takes g7. Tactical solution to the problem of the rook being attacked. Knight e4 check, queen f6. Grabbed a piece, now simplify the win. And if bishop d2, knight d5, and after castles, white's king's out in the open. That doesn't seem favorable. Already have a pawn target on d5. Open up the position, go after the king. Just one of the sidelines already down. So knight e4. What about bishop d2? This is very often seen by those who are surprised in positions. Let's go with a standard idea in the Nimzo-Indian. Ruin the pawn structure. Very often I have students mess this type of position up. This is a key for understanding Nimzo-Indian, Queen's Indian, Bogo Indian structures. We have traded off our dark square bishop. We have a light square bishop remaining. Now, if you watch the previous video on the French defense, you could see how a move like d5, this is cementing the pawns in the same color complex as our light square bishop, making this a bad bishop for every endgame. One of the key ideas in the Nimzo-Indian is the flexible pawn structure in the center. So we want to manipulate the pawns to be on the opposite color complex of our bishop to make our bishop stronger. d6, knight d7, e5. No matter what changes take place from here, we have our pawns on squares where we'd like for them to be, and our bishop is going to be stronger. Say, for instance, if d5, it's easy to see how this bishop is already exerting more pressure than it would with the pawn structure on e6, d5. So this is a very common mistake for those who are first playing the Nimzo-Indian, so keep this in mind. So coming back after knight e4, we've got queen b3, a cousin to queen c2. I don't want to release the tension on c3 too quickly. I want to give white more room to go wrong. Knight c6. So what's more room to go wrong? A move like a3. Knight c6 does get some development, and we're fishing for mistakes here. Most natural, bishop d3, just trying to get this knight to go away. Grab, followed by bishop e7. You go, okay. So in the previous variation, you were talking about the pawn structure and how to get the c8 bishop working optimally. Well, we've got double pawns here, and the bishop, I don't think we have time to do the d6, e5, b6. With the queen retreating, worried about a move like knight a5, we've got time for d6. We were preparing e5 potentially, but now after f4, e5's off the table. But we have the very nice knight a5, followed by bishop a6. And this is one of the main themes in the Nimzo-Indian, to play against the double pawns. Don't be in too much of a hurry to grab, because there may be some queen a4 check, which could pick up a piece. But keep that in mind. Maybe queen d7 before grabbing, or in general, don't be too quick, just in general, of grabbing the pawn. But queen e2, we have moves like c5, followed by rook c8 with more pressure on those doubled c-pawns. So let's go over the second most popular move, knight g to e2. We're going to go with b6, and f5 is also a playable alternative, matching the same themes as our overall main line, but b6 is stronger as it's more flexible and not committing us to Dutch-like pawn structures. Queen c2 hits the knight on e4, Bubba 7, and only after we see a3 do we take the time to capture. And now we've got another pawn structure that from the Nimzo-Indian. And I liked going over this in general because if you're a Nimzo-Indian player, it will teach you how to play multiple positions structurally. We're going to castle, and the main thing we need to focus on here is white has the bishop pair and is going to be looking to open up the position. Our ideal would be to trade off our bishop for its counterpart to play knight versus bishop, and we're trying to lock the pawns on the opposite color square complex of the opponent's bishop. So let's see how this game gradually plays out, and it's a correspondence game from, looks like 2015. So d6, staying with that flexible concept that we talked about earlier, looking to play e5 at the right moment. After bishop b2, queen f6. No mate threat if we're able to get the queens off the board. So queen c2. White is looking for tactics here. We take. And after bishop b5, our knight is hit. Should we go back to b8, or is there a better way to handle this? Rook a to d8, activating the queenside rook. I'd like to keep the other rook defending the kingside and potentially supporting an f-pawn push in the future. So d takes c. Our queen is now hit. Knight e5. Not worried about moves like f4, as we'll have queen h4 check to get out of trouble. c6. And if you're a pause your video type of person, this is the moment. Black to move. What is the most aggressive idea you can come up with? Go from that concept. All right. So hopefully you paused your video and found this beautiful combination. Bishop takes c6. See, giving the bishop for free. Queen takes. Now, rook d2. Put some respect on that move. The mate threat, queen takes f2, is coming. In the game, king takes d2 was played, and this now allows our knight to take, and black went on to win this position without too much trouble. So I really like that example game because it had the beautiful tactical move with rook d2. Now on to our main event, and as I stated earlier, 5-1, queen c2 is played the most, and this is where you should spend the most time studying if you're going to play this position. So we have f5. Now knight ge2 has been played here, and this is why I was saying it's kind of a transposition from earlier. Takes. And we need to play a5. And we can see similarities to that previous position. The key difference here is this queen and bishop battery threat. So white's going to gain space to try to bottle us. So how can we get the most play from this passive position? Rook f7. We want the rook defending, not the queen in this case, because after bishop e2, I don't want to grab the pawn on g2. This is going to allow rook g1 and then big threats in the long term. I want to play queen g5, and black has pretty easy position to play here where we're looking to improve with d6, knight d7, etc. You have to play a move like rook g1 here for white, I think, and that just doesn't seem right. Okay, so coming back as we're getting to the beautiful main line here, f5, and after bishop d3, When I was analyzing this position initially, I was shocked. I found a game from the chess.com Junior Speed Final from 2021, which when one of the top players in the world, Shevchenko, top young players, is playing an idea like this, say, well, it's got to be pretty good. The extremely counterintuitive b6. So you're going to let them capture on e4. Yep, because we're getting the good bishop. And you're giving them a pawn. And they get to attack the rook on a8. Yep. All right, before we get to the main move, which is bishop takes e4, which has been seen the most in games, this is the creme de la creme of surprise value with b6. What white should do is decline capturing the piece with knight h3. We can take, castles. Back to this idea, if they do take, we have d5, and we're going to get excellent play. e5, followed by bishop a6. Black's doing very, very well here. And if castles, bishop a6, c5, we've got to walk a bit of a tightrope here. Knight f7, a takes b6, rook e8. And you may have to go back, pause the video, look at the line some, but it is quite playable for black. That though white has got a little bit of material, we do have open files in easy play for our knights to swarm in the position. So on to the absolute main event, knight e4 being our first key move, f5, b6 our next key move and memory marker, takes, and this is where it gets fun. Castles. Would you like a free rook? Let's find out. If they don't grab the rook, which is probably the right option, we've got d5 in a balanced game. And if knight g to e2, d5 again, hopefully you're starting to see the themes pop up over and over. I like this practical move, bishop takes c3 here, as knight takes c3 is met by bishop a6. Queen takes c3 is met by bishop a6. B takes c3 is the critical line. It's met by knight c6. Bishop f5 hitting the queen. Knight a5, looking to plop that knight on c4. Now queen e8. And black has very swift development and play against these weak pawns. Feel that black has compensation in a practical game to play for a win. So we covered all of the main moves. So this is the star position. You can probably put at least one exclam, maybe two, depending upon your author, with this move, castles kingside. So let's see them take the bait, grabbing the rook on a8. We've got knight c6. Say white hunkers down, plays a move like knight g to e2, trying to defend. We've got queen f6 with the threat on f2. And after castles, bishop a6. Where's your queen going? And black has some pull here by the machine's estimation. So coming back, seen in the main game was d5, where we have queen f6. What if white tries to get greedy and grab this extra piece? Check. I don't think you want to take here. Bishop a6 just does so much. The queen is still in big trouble. I don't think you want to grab the, the a pawn. So takes, where our king is able to stop the pawn. And if king d1, bishop a6 again. And the idea, Queen g6. Sure, you can take all the pieces you want here. You want the pawn, you want either bishop, none of it really matters. There's just too many threats in the position. Rook takes f2, and white will not survive this. There's just too much as we are playing for mate, and the best white can do is jettison some material before things fizzle out. d5. So knight ge2 was played in Iragashi Shevchenko 2021. Queen takes f2, e takes d5. Let's go ahead and finally play that key idea, bishop a6. Now that follows the main game continuation where black had a small advantage and nursed it into a win. But we could have a big advantage right now by keeping tension. Just one more move. Queen takes g2, threatening the rook on h1. And after rook g1, check. Bishop b4, covering the rook. Still can't play moves like pawn takes d7 as the queen hangs. And if queen takes a7, queen can't really go anywhere. And now, with the d pawn out of the way, we're threatening bishop f5, which is just going to be devastating. And you don't often get to play bishop takes e4 mate. So I'll go ahead and end this variation here, but it's just a wonderful thing to see in a main line. How often do you get to sack a rook on move 8? This is, in the very least, is going to make your opponent use some time off their clock. So that opening surprise.